Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome, welcome to the infinite way where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Jessica Lockhart, and she has over 40 years of professional experience. Our esteemed professional consultant and expert in human challenges is renowned for her innovative approach to personal and professional development. Armed with degrees in emotional psychotherapy from the University of Nebrija in Spain, linguistics from the Chartered Institute of Linguists in the UK, and the science of happiness from the University of Berkeley in the US, she has solidified her reputation as a trusted advisor. As an entrepreneur and businesswoman, she has founded STI WORLD in Spain, serving in a diverse clientele from both domestically and internationally. Additionally, she established the International Institute of Humanology, which branches in Switzerland, Panama, and Spain, collaborating with esteemed companies, institutions, and clients globally. Pioneering in the field of humanology, she has developed groundbreaking methodologies and tools such as optimism coaching, social masks, personal essence exploration, time boxing, and absolute forgiveness. Recognized for her contributions, she holds an honorary degree in Humanistic Sciences and has been lauded as one of the 100 global coaching leaders by the Regional Human Resources Council of Mumbai, leveraging her extensive education and international experience. Jessica Lockhart specializes in offering clients unique perspectives and tailored solutions, turning their challenges into opportunities for growth and success. I welcome Jessica J. Lockhart.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Inolia, for first inviting me to be here. Second, this very warm introduction. And third, helping me talk about human beings because that's my passion. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And when I looked at your bio, you know, people don't have an appreciation for the work that we do that leads us to where we are. I have this newfound appreciation for the linguist in you and what you have founded in terms of humanology because I've been studying the trivium and quadrivium. So for me, what you bring to the table is so grand, and I absolutely love it. Will you take us on a journey to how you arrived where you are in terms of starting out and then finding your love of humanology?
Well, that's a very long story that I will try to shorten a bit. I was not a humanologist to begin with. I was a simultaneous interpreter. That's why I studied linguistics. And I loved it. I was good at it because I was fully bilingual, and it was a great challenge to be able to repeat the message of another human being, not only in words, but also in spirits. And I really thrived and loved it. But I had two car accidents in Olia, and I was really hurt by them to such a point that I was told by every doctor in the world that I would never walk again and I'd be wheelchair bound. I was a medical interpreter,
Wow.
so I knew every doctor in the field. And I used to work as the interpreter for one of the best well known hospitals in Spain. And that led me to meeting all these doctors. And doctor after doctor told me, you will never walk again. And there was a second problem, Inolia. I am intolerant to every medication, every drug. So I couldn't use anything for pain management, for muscle relaxing, nothing. It was just pure putting up with it. So after years of that, particularly the last 7 years in which I had constant acute pain in both legs and back, and I could barely stand, I would just fall down to the floor again.
Wow.
I finally sold my company and decided it was time to stop interpreting. And that was, as you can imagine, a complete change in my life. And funnily enough, when I decided that it was time, I was given a disability pension by the government because I could never do what I had been doing until then. My
Mhm.
husband was offered a position, a temporary position in Poland. We were living in Spain back then. And we received a call telling us that the adoption process we had started 6 years before had just concluded, and we had a beautiful girl waiting for us in Kazakhstan. So within a month, my life completely turned. We traveled to Poland. We brought our new daughter with us. We already had a young son. And
Yeah.
I just focused on my getting better to be able to live that new life. There was something that was the turning point. First, I found a doctor who discovered that there was one more lesion nobody had seen, and he fixed it, and that helped me reduce the level of pain, but it didn't disappear. And as years went by, the pain, the constant acute pain, the disability, the not being able to do things, slowly drained me of my optimism. This strength that I always had, this power, this hope, this was gone. And an old friend of mine one day told me, Jessica, whatever happened to you? And I started telling her my woes and my stories, all the accidents. And nah, she said, what happened to your spirit, to your optimism? And that was like opening a door to the light. And I said, where am I? This is not me. And that's when the change began, Leah. That's when I decided I don't want to be this anymore. I want to be myself. I'm
Yeah.
not being myself. I want to recover myself. I want to find that strength again. So, the word that my friend told me, optimism, was the first one that I decided to explore. And I started studying optimism. And I studied it, of course, having been a medical interpreter, at a very academic, scientific way. I first studied Professor Seligman, the father of modern optimism, we could say, and I discovered a lot of information, a lot of studies, many tools. I tried everything. Not all of it worked. I adapted some of the tools. I started working with neurotransmitters. I discovered them, and this was already 20 something years ago. And for example, I realized, and this is one of the keys that helped me, I realized that because I couldn't take any medication and I was in constant pain, my muscles were completely closed, and that trapped my nerves. And my nerves were in constant touch,
Yes.
and that hurt. And I said, well, I can't take any muscle relaxants. I can't take any nothing. What can I do? And then I said, well, oxytocin helps us feel better. We have endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all these chemicals that our body can produce naturally if we work on it. And I started doing it. I started with oxytocin, and I said, well, I have my children, I have my loving husband, I have lots of people who love me. I'm going to start working on increasing my levels of oxytocin and releasing them more often. And that's what I did. I told my family, guys, I need to oxytocin, let's see if I can say it, oxytocinize myself. So give me lots of
Okay.
hugs, give me lots of love, pamper
Yes.
me. Let's watch happy movies. Let's enjoy life. And you know what? It worked, Inolia. Little by little, those very tense muscles started relaxing. And by relaxing, they released my nerves. And by releasing my nerves, the pain was gone. So for
Beautiful.
years, because it wasn't just like that, for years I worked on myself. I used everything I learned, all the neurotransmitters, everything. And I improved so much that people started asking me, Jessica, what are you doing? You look so much better. You stand better, you walk better. And I said, yeah, well, I'm doing this and that and that. So can you teach us? I started teaching it. Well, as I said, it's a long
Awesome.
story. To cut it short, I created the first method that would then become humanology. I called it optimism coaching because I was coaching people to recover their own optimism, as I'd done with me. And it worked. And then I started sharing it and helping people do it, and people recovered, and it worked. So I wrote my first book, The Optimist in You, to continue helping more people. But the funny part came when people returned to me. And my old clients came to me and said, okay, Jessica, I recovered my optimism. I'm feeling great. What do we do now? So, what do we do now? About what? What about life? I don't know, whatever you want to. No, you have to help us. That's why I continued studying. And that's why I became a person who uses all kinds of tools, all kinds of fields, all kinds of knowledge to try and help other human beings know and understand themselves better so they can take action. They, not me. And that's how humanology was born. As you see, it's a long story, Nolia, but it had a very specific beginning.
Oh my goodness, it is a phenomenal story. And there's so many things I want to ask you. The first thing is that beauty that you took hold of yourself defying your doctors, because doctors would love to put you in a box, right? And they're basically saying, this is what you're dealing with, this is what it looks like. And by the way, that's it. That's the view of the story. That's the story that you're stuck in. Be stuck. And by defying the doctors and basically saying, I am not this person or this description that you've described, I can move beyond that box, is the way that you saved your own life. And the beauty that I love about that is that you replicated the power of the mind. You replicated the frequency of our thoughts. You replicated the frequency and the sacred light codes of how, I always call it power of the words, that what we say, what we think is replicated in the waters of our body. And I say the waters of our body because the waters of our body record everything that was done by Dr. Masaru Emoto in the most general sense. But it goes deeper than that. We know that science has proven that affirmations, okay, 21 days in a row spoken 3 times a day will change your actual physical being after, being repeated over and over again down to the mitochondria, right? I want you to talk a little bit about this because people need to understand, and because you have that beautiful medical background, how we're not just saying, be positive, be positive, be positive, but that it has a complete physical impact to what you do. And that it actually, I like to call it a leap of orbit or going the next octave. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I say that, how it has a leap of orbit within our lifetime of changing and transitioning and shifting the destination of our journey in life. So would you talk a little bit to that?
Sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that because, well, after all this work that I've been doing, I put all the information I collected, I learned, I even discovered, because there's discoveries in humanology as well. I put all that together and I created this new discipline called humanology, which is an approach to human beings in a more integral way. Until today, human beings have been approached in studies in a fragmented way. We want to know about the mind, we study psychology and psychiatry. We want to know about the body, we study biology or medicine. But we are integral beings. Everything is connected. We cannot continue approaching ourselves in such a fragmented way. So humanology is like an attempt to create this basic body of knowledge that approaches us in a global way. And one of the elements of humanology is that many years ago, I designed a model of the human being that's made up of 4 elements. When you know and understand those 4 elements in you, you know and understand yourself. One of those elements is related to what you just said, affirmations. Well, 2 of them maybe. One of those elements is beliefs. And when I talk about beliefs, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about what you understand the world to be like, your own interpretation of the world. When we're born, we have no beliefs whatsoever. No child believes anything. But as soon as we start experiencing the world, we start creating beliefs. Let me give you a very simple example, okay? When a baby's born and cries, "Wah," and the mom or dad feed him immediately, the baby starts associating that "wah," that cry, with food. And little by little, the baby creates the belief that if I cry, they feed me. And they cry to be fed. When you observe babies in certain orphanages, and my child was in one of those babies are not fed when they cry. They're fed on a regular schedule. So they don't cry for food. They don't believe equals food. That's a very simple example of how we start creating beliefs at a very early age. And when the child that's fed when they cry starts crying and is not fed anymore because the parents decide, well, it's time to let the baby cry, or it's time that the baby learns that it can be fed whenever it cries. When the baby realizes that, they stop crying for food. They change their belief and they adopt a new one. Beliefs are created, questioned, and changed throughout our whole lives. Some of those beliefs we're not even aware that we have. They're subconscious. But, and this is the important part, Inolia, what we believe becomes part of our worldview. It's like this second element of the human being, the worldview, is made up, it's like a lens that's made up of all our experiences and beliefs, everything we learn and experience. So when we look out at the world is shown or interpreted by us as something based on our beliefs. Let me give you an example too. I love examples because they help us understand these. And this is an anecdote, a true anecdote that happened to me. There's something that scientists and doctors discovered that we have in our brain. They call it the confirmation bias, and that's a behavior that all human beings have. Human beings hate insecurity. We cannot feel insecure because that weakens us, and we can't feel weak to face the world because that places us in a victim's role, and we don't want that. So there's a part of our brain that spends 24 hours a day looking for confirmation of our beliefs so we're at peace. Because whenever we start questioning a belief, what if this isn't like that? What if is, then we feel insecure. To feel secure, we have to have very solid beliefs, okay? So this system in our mind, in our brain, is like beep, 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 a scanner that's scanning our reality all the time to find confirmation for our beliefs so they can be reinforced. Then the story. Many years ago, I was in Barcelona. I had to present a conference the following day, and I was staying at a friend's house. She was coming to the conference too, and I had boxes of books, my books that I had to bring to the conference the following day. So the day before, we were sitting in her living room having a coffee, and suddenly she says, "Jessica, I called a taxi." I said, "Oh, really? Where are we going?" "Ah, no, for tomorrow." "What do you want a taxi for tomorrow?" "Well, to take us to the conference venue." I said, "But you have a car." "Yeah." "So?" I said, "Why don't we use your car? Why would you like to be paying a taxi here in Barcelona to go to the conference venue when you have a car?" "Oh, because this is Barcelona. We're going to the old part of town. It's impossible to park there." I said, "Okay, you scared me. You can cancel the taxi. I always park near the place I go." "Yeah, you might park there," she said. "That might be your story, but here in Barcelona, nobody parks in the old part of town." And I said, "Ew, my friend, I always do. I always park either in front of the door or in the block. Don't pay for a taxi." And she started getting a little upset. "Jessica, you might have whatever capacities, but this is Barcelona, my city. I know it very well. It's impossible to park there." I said, "Okay, I don't want to argue with you, but let's make a deal. You cancel the taxi, we go buy your car, we put the boxes in your car, and if we can't find a parking spot, I pay for the taxi, I pay for the parking spot." We agreed on that. The following morning, we put the boxes in the car. We left, and she was really, really grumpy. She was driving, and she was swearing under her breath. "Yeah, and now we're going there, and we're not going to pay.
Wow.
We're going to be late." And I was just, "Take it easy, we're going to make it." And I said, "Okay, listen. Whenever we're 3 blocks away from the place, you tell me, and I'll find you a parking spot." Yeah, you wish. She continued driving, and then she said, okay, we're about 3 blocks. I said, oh, there's a parking spot right there. Oh my, I hadn't seen it. Well, we're still very far. Don't worry, I'll find another one. She continued driving. A few minutes later, look, there's another one there. My car doesn't fit there. Of course it does. No, it doesn't. I know my car better than you do. I said, okay, you relax. We will find a parking spot. Funnily enough, the street we were going to was a pedestrian street. We couldn't park in the street as such, but the one next to it had this huge underground parking place. And right before we entered the parking place, there was a free parking spot. I said, look, you can park there. So she parked, she turned, she looked at me and she said, gosh, Jessica, you're a witch. Those were her words. And I said, no, Ew, let me explain this to you, okay? Look. And I told her about this confirmation bias. I said, my brain believes, deeply, firmly believes that I find a parking spot. So it's actively looking for a parking spot as we drive. Whereas your brain firmly believes that it's impossible to park in Barcelona. So to confirm your belief, it actively blocks every parking spot on your way, and you cannot see it, or you see it distorted, and you think you can't fit in. Wow, she said. Can I use that? I said, sure, go ahead. So she now finds parking spots as well. What does this story mean, Inolia? This story means that there is truth in saying that we somehow create our reality. It's not that we create it. I don't create the parking spots, but I do give myself the chance to find them, to discover them, and then confirm my belief. But I teach, I don't call them affirmations, I call them declarations, and I will explain why, okay? I teach people that they can use declarations to do what I'm doing. I don't use affirmations because I think there's, in the teaching of affirmations, a lot of people miss on certain things. What I teach is that affirmations need to comply with or fulfill 5 basic rules for them to be effective. The first one is, whatever you're going to declare has to be in your power to turn it or to make it true. So, for example, if I were to be here and suddenly John and Mary came and they asked me to marry them, I could say, okay, Mary, John, I now declare you husband and wife. But that wouldn't change their reality at all because I don't have that capacity. Whereas if I had been, I don't know, ordained and I said the exact same words, then that reality would change. So we first need to have the capacity to declare something. I declare myself a vegetarian. I have that capacity. Second, whatever we declare has to be declared in the present. And this is something a lot of people miss. I declare I am a vegetarian. I don't declare I'll be a vegetarian, because what I am declaring when I speak in the future tense is that something will happen, not that it's happening. If I want it to become a reality, I have to consider that it's happening now. I find a parking spot. I don't say I will find. Third, we have to omit any kind of word that refers to possibility, probability, or capability, all those itis. We should say, I am strong, not I can do this. Because if you say, I can do this, what you're declaring is that you have the capacity to do it, not that you do it. So you have to omit all those words. Fourth, in order for your brain to acquire that confirmation bias, you have to really believe what you're saying. So I agree with you, we have to repeat it. And I don't think 3 times a day is enough. What I tell my clients is, turn this new declaration into your mantra. You know, say it. Say it all day long. Say it out loud. I am strong. I am strong. Imagine, you know, I walk I walk. When I was in my disability period, I walk on my own. I walk on my own. Say it out loud. Say it in your mind. Write it down. Take a piece of paper and write it 100,000 times every day. Repeat it in singing. That helps too, you know. I walk on my own. I walk on my own. Say it, say it, say it. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And the fifth one, and this is also fundamental, whenever that declaration happens, and it will sooner or later happen, but when it does, even if it's for 1 second, yay, I did it! Celebrate it. Tell your brain, this is what I have to do. This is what I can do. If my declaration is I walk on my own and I stand up and I take 1 step, yabba dabba dabba doo, I celebrate it. Why? Because by celebrating it, I am giving my body a release of chemicals that strengthen my new pathway, my new brain pathway. So when you do these 5 things, your declaration becomes your power. You start really retraining your brain. It's not a matter of just repeating blindly. No. Be careful how you word your declaration. Make sure that you repeat it all the time, and make sure that you train your brain to celebrate it so it sees that that is the right thing to do. So, sorry for the long answer, but when we work in humanology...
Don't you dare apologize. This is so important. And I want to introduce your linguist background right now after hearing this, because the appreciation of understanding how important communication is in each and every word that we say and how we phrase it, and the breakdown of the use of it, because we tend to use words in a negative way, and just that I can versus I will, I am makes a huge difference. And when you bring back the understanding, or when you bring forward, not bring back, but bring forward the understanding of why communication is important, why language is so important, and the fact that you've lived across the world also. And so not is it just important in English, but in every language. Would you talk to us a little bit about this? Because it's really important that people understand the foundation and the basis of universal language, and how it brings forward that declaration and gives it the energy behind it that it needs to have.
Let me answer your question, Inolia, by showing you the latest book I published. Unfortunately, this one's in Spanish. It's not translated into English yet. If there's anybody out there who would like to have it translated into English and publish it, I think that could be very useful for people. This is a book I wrote for a university publishing company who asked me to write something on human communication. This book is based on how I communicate based on who I am, based on my real abilities, based on my own limitations, based on my beliefs, based on my social masks, based on who I am. Every other book that I've come across is based on external communication, how communication works, like applied to us, not how do I communicate. So one of the things that I teach in my book is that each of us learns to communicate a certain way depending on the social circumstances, depending on the social spheres we are dealing with. And in order to communicate properly in those spheres, in those groups, in those communities, we use what I call social masks. Those social masks come together with a set of tacit rules that everybody has to comply with. So let me explain. For example, if you are a child, your parents, your grown-ups, will start teaching you how to use social masks from the beginning. They will tell you that in order to address an adult, a grown-up, you have to be polite. You can't talk to your grandparents the same way you talk to your peers in the playground. They teach you that immediately. And that's a social mask. It's the set of rules that you have to comply with. in a given situation. The funny thing about social masks is that wearing the wrong social mask in a group will immediately highlight that you're an intruder, that you're not part of the group. Having lived in 8 different countries and uncountable societies and cultures, you quickly learn that the social masks are completely different from society to society. They're not the same conventions, they're not the same rules, they change. And if you want to really integrate in a community, you have to learn how to use their social masks. So why am I saying this? Because everybody teaches us how to put on social masks. We know how to imitate those rules, how to follow those rules, but nobody teaches us how to remove those masks. We usually have no power over removing masks. And a lot of people suffer a lot because they, for example, they wear a mask that is not the right one in a certain situation, and they feel awkward and they can do nothing about it because they don't know how to remove it. What I also teach is that when you're interacting with somebody else and there's masks worn by both parties, because in every situation between human beings, when a mask comes up, another one immediately is put on.
Right.
There's always communications between the masks. And it's not until one person can really remove one of the masks and look at the human being behind and connect with that human being that the masks drop and we communicate human being to human being. It is only then that the communication is real and authentic. Without reaching that point, it's just a communication or conversation between masks. So, removing our masks in order to establish real human communication is a tricky part that we teach at the Institute too. What we tell people is, you can't remove your own mask. You know, it's something that you are wearing because you also see another mask in front. So the trick of removing masks is not removing your mask, but the mask the other person's wearing. And how do we do that? Well, make the effort of humanizing the person and not the mask. Look behind the mask. And how do I do that? Look for something that makes the person human. Look at their eyes. Look at their expression. Look at the way they move. Look for something that is unique about that person. Focus on that. And then feel the person. When you do that, the other person notices it, feels it somehow, and the masks drop. When the other person's mask drops, yours drops too. And then there's this moment of connection. I know you felt that in Holy. Everybody has felt that sometimes in their lives. And when you feel that, it's like a communion. It's like there's this bond with this human being. And once you establish that bond, although you might still use masks at certain points, it's easier to reestablish. Once you create that bond with that person, the communication changes completely. There's one more thing. When we talk to ourselves, mentally, in front of the mirror, we sometimes even put masks in that one-on-one conversation with ourselves, which is what I was coming to. It's really important that when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we actually connect with ourselves. A lot of people look at themselves in the mirror and they only see little details. They're not really looking into themselves. If you really want to work on yourself, if you really want to take control and be able to do something that changes you or your reality, you need to be in communion with yourself. You need to connect. And that can only be if you actually see yourself and not your labels, your tickets, your names, your name tags, or your little tiny details. So going back to your question, sorry for the long answers, but they're complex answers. I mean, they're complex questions too. Going back to that, how we talk to ourselves is really important. But before we can really use the right language, we have to find the right connection. And when we establish that connection and the masks drop, the communication completely changes. Then we talk heart to heart. Then we talk human being to human being. And that's the first step. Take that step in all your relationships. Well, not really. Sorry, let me correct myself. Take that step in every relationship you want to work on or you want to improve. In any relationship you want to be authentic. Because there are interactions that we don't really care about. You know, if I go to I don't know, the supermarket, I might not want to take all those masks off and connect with the person. Maybe I do, but maybe not at that right moment. But if you really want your words to reach the other person, you need to remove the masks. Did I answer your question, Leah?
Yes, you did. And, fundamentally, I want to make sure that the audience understands what you shared was so invaluable because you just shared what you probably had to speak to for yourself in order to take that leap forward, to get past the fact that the doctors had projected a bubble to you that said, this is what's going to be the course of your life. And you had to say, no. But you had to talk to the very inner being of your soul in order to say, that's not the course that we're going to go. I am going to pave my own way.
And there's something else too. There's something else too, Nolia. Once you see yourself, once you communicate with your real true self, once the communion happens, the self-talk is fundamental. You know, I was told by every doctor that I would never walk again. And they constantly told me there's nothing we can do for your pain. There's nothing you can do for your pain. Until there was one doctor, this last doctor, who didn't stop at the diagnosis, who didn't stop at the interpretation of my CT scans and my MRI images given by the image technician, image technician. 6 slip discs, 2 bubbles in the spine. Conclusion, this woman has degenerative problems and will never walk again. But this man, when I went to his office, and I was forced to go there, I didn't want to go because I was so fed up with doctors, I have to say. But when I got there, this doctor checked me up, looked at all the information I brought, made me lay down, moved my body, and then said, yeah, I agree with your diagnosis. Yeah, you have 6 slip discs and the bubbles and everything the others say, but I think your sciatica and your acute lumbago come from something else. Leah, I was so tired, so much in pain, so fed up that I looked up at him and I said, and you're the only one to see that, right? He was really nice and he was all like, well, I'm just telling you what I see. I said, yeah. So he said, well, I think I can fix it and I can remove your pain. I said, yeah, right. But then he said, well, it's up to you. And this is the important lesson. He said, it's up to you. And I remember thinking, nobody has given me any hope these last 10 years, 15 maybe, I don't even remember. But this man is telling me he can do something about it. Everyone's told me this is going to go downhill. There's no way I can recover. This one says he can remove the pain. Well, that'd be huge. I had not yet started working on myself. Okay, this is before that. Right. And I said, well, okay, do whatever you want. It can't get any worse than it already is. He was like an osteopath. So he moved my body. I remember I screamed like crazy because it hurt like crazy. But for the first time in 7 years, I got off that bed and I stood straight. Until then, I was bent forward, sideways really, and my left leg was bent and I couldn't stretch it. For the first time in I don't know how long, I fully stretched my body and I stood on my 2 feet. When I left that doctor's office, my husband saw me and started crying. Imagine how unbelievable that was. That was a turning point for me as well. That made me think, well, this man didn't stop at the surface. He didn't
Yeah.
just take it for granted. He didn't just take what everybody else was saying and reacted on that. No, he said, okay, let me do my own search. Let me do my own research here and see if I can find something else. And he did. Later on, because I do have all the back problems, all the disability, the pain came, but never as strong as before and never for so long. Combining what he did to my body by repositioning it and everything I learned later on, I can say that although I have my ups and downs, I'm still not wheelchair bound. So, this is the important message to everybody listening to us. Perspective, research, and not stopping at the surface are fundamental in your search for yourself and in the way you want to approach your life. Don't stop at the surface. Continue digging deeper. Look how far I went digging into myself and my new reality. I completely shifted it. I completely changed it. And I managed to go so much beyond what I was told I could do. That's unbelievable. But it's not because I'm a superwoman. It's not because I am special. It is because I took control and decided to look further. So that's my message. Don't stop at the surface. Look further.
I love this. I love this. So from here, we need to go into how you've established your institute, what it's about. Please do share.
Okay. So after I started um, being told that people used optimism coaching and it worked for them and it gave them their joie de vivre, their energy, their stamina, their power back, and asking for more, I said, well, I don't know if I can help you because I'm just a linguist expert in coaching now because I studied so much and I developed the method. But what can I do? This is interesting. I want to continue learning. So I did. I became what they call an ontological coach. That is the coach that focuses on the being. I studied everything and anything that I could get my hands on. I studied positive psychology. I studied regular psychology. I am a psychotherapist. I studied empathy. I studied the science of happiness in Berkeley. I studied, I don't know, everything. You say it, I did it. I studied it. Why? Because I started seeing that there was this connection, that everything was connected.
Mhm.
Sorry, and that nobody was putting the dots together in a way that made sense to me. So, as part, for example, of my coaching training, I had to work with real human beings for 100 hours or 100 sessions. And I had to work with them applying the tools that I was being taught at the institute where they were teaching me. And I did, but I mixed it, of course, with optimism coaching and everything that I was learning because I thought it was important to help the person in whatever way the person needed. See, my father was a teacher trainer. He taught teachers how to teach. That was his specialty. He was a linguist. And when I was 16 years old, he made me start working for him at the school he had because, well, he was American and, at a young age, we are supposed to start making some money. So I started teaching when I was 16. I was teaching adults. My first class was with a whole panel of bankers, 14 bankers who were years older than me. But one of the things that
Love
my
it.
father, yeah, it was, but it worked. One of the things that my father taught his teachers was every person learns their own way. And as a good teacher, a professional teacher, you have to be able to teach each person the way they need to be taught. Most
Love.
teachers learn one method, maybe two, and they apply it no matter what. And when I talk about teachers today, I realize it's not just teachers, but mentors and coaches and gurus. Everybody comes with their method under their arm. And that's what I realized when I became a coach and I started studying all these things. I said, I can't approach people with just one method or two. They need other things. They might they might need optimism coaching today, regular coaching tomorrow, but maybe 2 weeks from now they need mentoring or they need something else. So I started putting all these dots, as I said, together. I created the model of the human being with those 4 elements. And I realized that this is the human being, you know, and I represent humanology as an umbrella that's on top of the human being. And each of the spikes in the umbrella is a method, a strategy, a technique, or a tool. So we first start working with the human being to understand those 4 elements. Who am I? Really? What is in me that is not working or that I dislike? And then, based on that discovery of who I am, understanding who I am, we go to the umbrella and we pick the tool or the strategy or the technique that the person needs at that moment to take the next step. And every person needs different things. It's not static. It's not something you can apply like a recipe, always the same ingredients in the same order. No, every person's different. And as a good professional, I have to be ready to offer them alternatives. Imagine, even when you're working on something like beliefs that we said before, or masks, a coaching technique, looking inside, trying to find the answers, might be perfect for Mary today. But maybe I have the same session with John later, who also needs to work on beliefs, but that person needs to learn, for example, about declarations. What I just taught you, that is pure teaching. I need to teach that so the person understands so they can move on. So
Right.
I started working like that with human beings, applying everything I learned. And as I said, discoveries too. I can't get into that because it would be a whole new session, but humanology incorporates things that I discovered, like time boxes or personal essence. Those are unique to humanology. And then I remember people asking me, so what is it that you do? I was like, well, I work with human beings. I'm an optimism coach. I'm a coach. But I'm not a coach because, according to, for example, the International Coaching Federation, if you're a coach, you're just a coach and you only use coaching techniques. Full stop. But I did other things too. So my wonderful husband again came to my rescue and one day said, I know what you are. I said, you do? I said, yeah. He said, if psychology studies the mind, sociology studies societies, you study human beings. You're a humanologist. I said, that makes sense. And that's how humanology was born. I have the trademark for humanology in Spanish and English all around the world. I developed the whole methodology and the whole discipline based on that concept. And when I had the whole body, I started teaching and sharing humanology. So I created the International Institute of Humanology. People come to me and they're trained as humanologists. By the way, we teach humanology in 4 parts. The first one of which is optimism coaching. Without a basic level of optimism and energy, nothing else will work. So the
Right.
first training is always to help people recover that first optimism so they can work on themselves. The second part is personal development. That includes everything such as, for example, beliefs, personal essence, worldview, all those things. The third one is human relations. There we work about how we interact with others. We have personal spheres there, the contents of the personal sphere. And the fourth and last one is human development, how we relate with the world, with everything around us, not just human beings. And in that part of the course, we also teach specific practical methods like absolute forgiveness, a method that helps people really, truly, finally get rid of their burdens and forgive others and themselves. So at the end, it all came together as a unique discipline that has a very, very practical core, but is academically and scientifically very solid. And that's what I devoted my life to in Olia.
I love this because I'm sitting here going, there are all of the cores. I have the 7 principles of self-mastery, and I call it the Empower, Achieve, Succeed methodology. And we as light workers, we as beings that care about other human beings, we 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 bring forward our experiences to help and share with other human beings to make their journeys possible and easier and achievable. And I just love what you bring forward to bear. We're coming up on an hour. I don't want to end this conversation. It's been so unveiling and so powerful and important. Our audience, there's somebody whose heart you're touching and reaching right now. What would you say to that person in terms of their journey? It's been hard already. I know there are people who need to hear you that are wheelchair bound, giving them possibility and hope. There's so much that I want to share, but what would you share with
Okay,
them?
what I'd like to share is that there's all kinds of help. We at the Institute have, of course, one-on-one and group sessions with people, with humanologists, with optimism coaches, people who specialize in the different aspects of humanology. We have people who specialize in humanology for couples, humanology for children, humanology for companies, you know? So whatever the issue is, we are experts in approaching the issue with our clients in whatever way they need so they can know themselves and take action to make progress. We also offer personal development courses or programs that people can do even online, although all of them do include Q&A question sessions with our humanologists. And you can
Mhm.
enroll in those courses in our website. For example, as I mentioned one right now, absolute forgiveness. You can work on yourself without actually having to go to sessions. You can learn the tools and apply them to yourself by following the program. Or there's another one to recover your optimism, another one to understand, work on, and master your stress and your anxiety. I mean, all these topics we deal with because they're very human. And then, of course, we have the training courses if you want to become a humanologist, if you want to work with others, if you want to really help others. So there's something for everyone, and there's always a way to find it. Mm, Something else that I want to add, important. Our trainees also have to do pro bono sessions with people when they're being trained. And if there's somebody out there who really needs support and can't afford it, they can contact us and they can work with our students on a pro bono situation so they can get some tools, some information from our students so they can also start taking action. So we offer everyone something that they can use. There's one more thing that we offer, and that could help some people. You know, we publish a monthly magazine. This monthly magazine, it's called More Human, Más Humanos in Spanish because it's bilingual. And we include articles, we include interviews, we include information. It's about 60 to 70 pages every month. So it is a very serious journal. And people can subscribe to it. They can subscribe and receive it at home. And if they're not ready to talk to people yet, they can at least get some knowledge, some information from the magazine. So I think with all these tools at their disposal, with all these things that we're offering them, everybody can find something to help them. I am convinced.
Thank you so, so much. And you can't leave here without saying where your website is, any contact information you would like to provide so that people can find you.
Okay, the website is thehumanology.net. You have it in Spanish and in English, so thehumanology.net. And you can find us also in YouTube. We have a lot of videos, including some with you, Inulia. And the handle for the YouTube channel is the Humanology channel. So easy. And if you Google Humanology Jessica Lockhart, you'll find me everywhere. We're on every social media. We have a lot of events going on every month. So please Google us, join us, participate, get to learn who you are so you can take action.
Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, powerful conversation. And I know that you are walking away with a plethora of information, with hope, with understanding that somebody is going through these scenarios and somebody is going through these issues. If you like what you heard, please share this podcast and please like us and subscribe. And Jessica, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here with sharing your wisdom, sharing your stories. What a pleasure it was to have you.
No, thank you, Inolia. Thank you for supporting Humanology, for helping us disseminate it, because at the end, we're all basically trying to help human beings rehumanize themselves. We are trying to help human beings realize that they have a lot of power, even in the worst of situations, and that they are the ones who need to take control. And with podcasts and shows like this one today, we can, I hope, share the belief that they have the power to do things. And if my example can help them realize that they have the power to identify, question, and change their beliefs, to understand their social masks, and so much more, then I can only but thank you again, Inolia, for giving me this chance, because we're all human beings. We all need help. We all want to have the best possible journey. So let's support one another. That's always my motto. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Inolia.
Thank you. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us. This has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.